everybody. Time to rise and shine. I'm Shelby Barrett, the Stoned for the Stoned Roadie Show, and it's time to wake and bake with Craig Reed and Griff Martin.
When we get up in the morning, along with coffee, toast, and cake, if you're like the old Stoned Roadie, you like to wake and bake. Now let's join Craig Reed and Griff Martin as we head out on the road. So sit right back and buckle right in. It's a wake and bake morning show. It's a wake and bake morning show. It's a wake and bake morning show. Good morning.
Stoned Roadie Show, number 130. Morning Buzz Wake and Bake, number 14. Action. Alrighty then, looky here. My name's Craig Reed, the host of the Stoned Roadie Show, and this is my co-host, the rocket scientist, Griff Martin, a.k.a. the Baptist, Griff the Baptist. So what we got going on this morning, Griff the Baptist?
Well, it looks like you're getting ready to take a red eye or something, Craig. You got your Captain Reed's outfit on there. What's going on, man?
Yeah, this is the pilot's outfit you got me when you was dating that stewardess, and this is the third time I wore it. I think I wore it on our first podcast we did at the FakeBook one. And then I think I wore it on my 50th show, and now this is a 130th show, but it's the 14th Wake and Bake. But yeah, I figured I'd do me and my red eyes to do a red eye, and I'm gonna leave my house here and walk outside after we get done doing this, and I'm gonna jump in my Cessna 152, and I'm gonna fly out to Akron, Canton, and I'm gonna pick me up a Cessna Citation, and I think I'll fly over across Lake Erie over to Detroit, and then just turn around and just fly back over to Cleveland, Ohio, and then maybe fly down to Pittsburgh, and then maybe over to Washington D.C., and then back over to Akron, Canton, and then I'll get in my Cessna 152, and I'll fly back here and see if I can't just land it back in my backyard here and just call it a day.
Well, the airport's right down the road from your house.
No, the airport's 2 miles from me, yeah, but I'm just gonna fly over there. I'll take my little Cessna.
You know what you could do, Craig? You could go down there and hang around in the bar, and then all the young ladies will come up and think that you're a pilot.
Well, I'm in simulation mode, so I'm in the Earth simulation mode, and then I'm in the Stoned Roadie simulation mode. I'm in pretend city there, So
It'd be like that. Catch me if you can.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a little sightseeing. I'll get me a little plane and just fly around here a little bit, and yeah, just do a little sightseeing since I'm up early. It says so early, the doggone this morning, but yeah, usually I get in that F-18, and damn, that thing goes 620. I can do that trip in about all those places in about 40 minutes. That takes me about 7 minutes to get to Detroit from here.
That F-18 doing what, 650 mile an hour?
620, I think is what I do. Yeah, but yeah, I don't want to act like I'm no pilot or nothing. I got on the easiest navigation mode, and sometimes I'll flip it over to the hard mode and turn the indicators off to where I'm at and try to read the compass and stuff and get more acquainted with it. But I turn it back up, so it tells me right where I'm at. But normally I just set it on autopilot when I'm going across Lake Erie. That's a pretty boring flight, and get me a couple of hits on the bowl, and then by the time I look up, I'm right at the Detroit airport, and I gotta come back on the throttle and hit the flaps and put the landing gear down and try to drop some massive speed and do a nosedive and try to land about 200 mile an hour. Those planes got pretty good brakes on them. Most of the time I can stop pretty good, but
Well, if you crash it this time, it won't be real.
no, it just Matter of fact, I got it on the mode where if I got to do something real serious for it to really crash.
Well, it looks better than the Robe, I'd say. I mean, you came about it legitimately too. So.
Oh yeah, I did. I don't know what I did. Well, hell, I did 13 shows with the Robe on.
Yeah.
So
it was hard.
I can go back to the Robe occasionally. Normally when I get up in the morning and feel like taking a flight somewhere, I usually just keep my robe on, But I figured this morning I'd wear one of my outfits, Normally when I do the fighter jet, the F-18, I can get in my Blue Angels outfit, But yeah, I was kind of debating which one to do this morning, but this is more spiffy than the Blue.
You ought to pick a store, like a grocery store, as close as you can to the airport, and then go in there and have a whiskey flask in your pocket and go shop.
Yeah, that'd be
and say, hoot. Hurry up, lady, bag these groceries. I got to get to the airport.
Yeah. But besides that, man, I went down to the mailbox. I had an email and said I had a damn FedEx coming, and I'm going, I wasn't expecting no FedEx, so I went to the mailbox and it was in there, and I opened up this package and look at this, man.
Damn.
It's 15 kazoos, and they're horners. I got my personal Stoned Roadie one. It's a red one, my little red horner. Yeah, my little red horner kazoo. But one thing, I've kind of led a sheltered life. I didn't know how to play kazoo, so I'm going, and I said, maybe you blowing that in. No, that don't work. Well, you got to blow on this little one. That makes a lot of sense, but that didn't work. But so I looked on YouTube, how to play kazoo, and the first one I saw was a kindergarten teacher telling how to fix a kazoo, and it's got a little. You can take this little thing off here, that little piece right there.
Yeah, it gets slobber in it.
Yeah, and there's a piece of wax paper in there, kind of like stuff, and I figure, okay, well, I kind of know the technique behind the kazoo. If there's a piece of wax paper in there, it's supposed to make some kind of a flappy noise or something, that has something to do with the sound. So then it said just a hum in it, so I'm going, so then I started playing around with it, making noises like a cow,
Damn.
Clap, so then
you can play Happy Trails.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. I told Kathy Kotze I was talking to her about it because she could play Happy Trails on it. I was trying to think of something to play. I forgot how to play. I'm not no flutist. No. What is this thing called?
Kazooist.
A kazooist. Yeah.
Maybe you can do. Greg, maybe you can do Peter Frampton's "Do You Feel Like We Do"?
Well, but anyways, thank you for sending these. Whoever did it, they're kind of entertaining. I'm not a kazooist yet. But anyways, so yeah, another day in the life of the Stone Roadie. So what else is going on?
Well, I know you were talking a little bit about that damn "Rocking for a Reason" thing. That was kind of getting me
Oh
thinking.
my God, yeah.
Yeah.
I think was it last night I asked you about that. I went, Griff, what the hell's Rocking for a Reason 5? I said, we only did one and then I was going, what's the deal with this 5? I said, what are they talking? They talking about those other benefits they did. The only ones I was aware of, the other benefits I was aware of was the one that every time somebody had a benefit, did something, but for somebody the money came up missing. That's
Yeah,
really,
we did only one, and the other
yeah.
ones that we did four, and the 1, 2, and 3 we had nothing to do with.
But I heard
And
they were legitimate. I was under the impression that all those down there were a scam, and that every time they did a benefit down there for somebody, the money would somehow come up missing. That's the only ones I ever heard of. But
well, I know the
apparently,
Full Moon
apparently there
Fest
was
was
three different people that had some kind of kidney and liver cabinet problems and stuff. I think they said Leonard Skinner Jr. actually had one for him, and he actually benefited for them. So and he well, I was on FakeBook this morning, kind of ranting, and I said something about those funeral brochures that I sold, brought in 3 times more money than that dang Rockin' for a Reason thing. And Chad seen that, and he went, no, all those people got each got $1,000. And I went, oh, bullshit. I said, I only remember 1,000, but then I looked on my sheet and it said Rockin' for a Reason came in with $5,000, which is a good amount of money, but those nemesis down there that put out the word that they was gonna burn people's houses down if they were caught going to the Rockin' for a Reason, that fan club or what, that fan site, the Lynyrd Skynyrd fan site, the one that that guy uses my films, and everything he does, he uses my film, and he calls me a piece of shit,
yeah,
so
yeah, I hear you.
whatever. But yeah, but anyways, yeah, those Rockin' for a Reason. I guess one of the survivors was thanking somebody about everybody for contributing $5,000 last year. Toward each of those 5 people got $5,000 basically.
We got
So
1,000 apiece.
I guess they were saying, thanks for the Rockin' for a Reason, and right away, a couple of people got the idea they were going to do another one, and Griff and I said, "Man, this is 2024 election
Right.
year
Oh
in
yeah.
August. No, no,
Nah.
they're supposed to the communists are supposed to start their whatever shenanigans here around
Yeah. Uh-huh.
May. It's hard to say what they're going to come up here with. They're going to throw the kitchen sink at this, man. Anything they can come up with to fight against Trump, they're going to come up with it. So, I mean,
Yeah.
and what's scary is there's 37% of the people out there that support that idiot. My God. If you ain't learned by now, you never will, I mean, I know we're supposed to talk about a lot of the Skinnered information on here, but I've heard people say, anybody with a podcast that has any kind of outside influence, please do what you can to try to give people information that's you don't see on mainstream news. I mean,
Yeah.
but trouble is, if you ain't figured it out by yourself by this point, ain't nothing I'm going to say that's going to change your mind. But maybe I can raise awareness on obesity a little bit, and maybe get somebody think, whoa, I'm getting a little heavy. Maybe I could drop a few pounds. If I can do that, I'm happy with that, because if you ain't figured this politics out by now, your chances ain't very good.
Well, they're telling him that he can go out and say what he wants now because they want him to look like a babbling idiot. So
Well, he
so now
is.
he's going out there and they're getting ready to act like he's not doing not going to be able to do his job anymore. So they can get somebody else in there to run in his place. But everybody already knows that they're up to something, and that's why we can't do another benefit, because if we get everything set up and then they have some kind of a grid shutdown or whatever, then everybody's going to get screwed out of their money. So we'll just wait till Mr. T gets back in office.
Yeah, maybe next year. But when another one happens, man, we gotta find a place that has the ability to have a kitchen, and already has a liquor license, and has a stage, and has enough power to run lights and sound and everything. If not, a generator can be brought in, but all that stuff had to be facilitated to come into that auditorium place. And there was quite a bit of money raised, but it all went for expenses. And then and then it's just ridiculous. It's not worth it. It's not worth the it was kind of worth doing it, for the money we got, and we could have got a lot more, which would have been good. But to take a chance on doing it in August, and putting all that together, I don't think it's worth the trouble this year. But
yeah, it would be a big gamble. We wouldn't want to get everything set up and then find out that it's going to be canceled because of the evil ones.
Well, it cost me $1,000 to come down to and do one of those things. It costs you every bit of that. And then we have a lot of other people to get involved in this Stone Roadie show that'll come, like Shelby. I mean, Shelby's come from Mississippi. She'll probably want to go to that thing and everything. And hell, it cost her $500 or $600, and between us three, it cost us $3,000 for three of us to come down there to that thing. It's
just send that
damn
money
near as
right
much
in.
money
Yeah.
as. If we're gonna do that, we just should donate $3,000 and just call it a day.
Yeah.
Save all the trouble.
But then we wouldn't have the fun. It's all about the fun.
My
But
God.
those plane crash survivors, I don't know if they're ever going to be able to make another trip like that. That was a rough trip.
Oh,
For,
that's it's rough,
Paul
man.
Welch.
I mean, God, it's rough on me. I
Mark
don't want to
Howard,
drive that
he couldn't
again.
make it.
Hell, I just turned 73. My last trip to Mississippi cost me $15,000. Of course, it blew my engine up, but
Yeah.
but the hotels and all. Yeah, that was $15,000 out of my pocket on that one.
Yeah, so if you guys hear anything about a rockin' for a reason, then we're not even going to call it that the next time. We don't want to call
No.
it that. We're going to call it the Forgotten Survivors Celebration.
Yeah, we don't want any confusion here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to be associated with any of those previous scams.
Then on another note, somebody was saying, why you guys doing a best of already? Craig and I, we couldn't. It wasn't Craig's fault.
What are we supposed to do? 1,000 shows before we do a best of? God.
Well, somebody said Craig must have been over waking and over baking, and he couldn't have.
Well, yeah.
It was actually my fault.
Yeah.
It was actually my fault this time. Well, I mean, I was on the road with Griff Martin and I couldn't be here to do it. So the problem of us doing more podcasts is you're be more of a chance of catching one of us not home at a certain time. So every now and then there's going to be a best of. It's going to have to. But we've got some good old podcasts like that Steve Reynolds. a lot of people really like that Steve Reynolds, and then you got
Pops
Pops.
too. Yeah, a lot of people like the one with Pops.
Yeah, so we
Mike
we got
Esty.
some really good stuff that a lot of you guys, if you haven't seen, we'll just weed through all of the bad stuff and pull out the good stuff, and you can just not have to worry about going to find it. So it's always something good about something bad. Yeah, so we got some questions though, Craig. Also got some questions, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about the on the road that is going to be following me and Craig doing our jibber jabber with Kenny Phillips. And Craig found Kenny Phillips. Where'd you find Kenny Phillips at, Craig?
I think he emailed me.
Did he?
I'm pretty sure he emailed me.
Yeah. So the backstory on Kenny is he grew up like just right in the same neighborhood as Ronnie Van Zant, and he actually knew Alan and all of the guys really well, and Gene Odom, and he
Didn't
really
Kenny say he was a drummer? Isn't that the same guy who
yeah.
said? Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and he said that Alan used to come over to his house and pick around a little bit with him because he had
Yeah.
a band too, and Alan would come over and mess around with them. I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he met Larry Junstrom. He knew Larry Junstrom, and he actually donated a dobro that came from somebody that really knew Larry Junstrom really well. So that's kind of cool. And he wants me to get Gene to sign that, and then we'll put it up on eBay or put it up here when we get ready to liquidate some of the stuff, and we'll see what we can get for that. And
We had good luck with the book, you know. We had that first book and tried to
yeah,
do something with it on here and they weren't very successful and put it on eBay and it only went for 610 and then we got that other one and came on and said, "Come on, people, give us $1,000 for this." And Lisa bought it. You know, one of my good eBay customers, Lisa
yeah, and
bought it.
that money goes to Mark Frank, and then
Goes
that
to
dobro
Frank,
money
yeah.
will go to Gene Odom. That's where Kenny wants that dobro money to go to Gene Odom. So that's we appreciate the donations, you guys.
Yeah,
Really
and I've
cool.
been getting yeah, we haven't collected like we said. We're probably not going to collect a lot of money this year from donations, and we don't want to pound this donation thing. We're not a donation station, but yeah, we've only got $160 or something like that in donations. But I'm not pimping you for donations, but we've got other stuff coming up that we don't have to hit you for donations. We got these stickers, and I actually had a guy today call me, and was going golfing up the road here. Wanted to know if he could stop by and pick up a couple of stickers and pay me for them. And I said, well, I wasn't going to be home yet last night, but yesterday. But I just get my post office box thing. So he's going to do that, and then our guy that did our intro songs, he's buying a couple of them, and I've had other people have interest in buying a couple of them. Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, we got 100 of them. If we could sell them all for $25 a piece, that's $2,500 toward the forgotten survivors, and at least you're getting something. Those are pretty cool stickers.
Yeah, and then we got some stuff to auction off too, like the stuff behind me, these pictures behind me, and then there's some more stuff that I have back there in my stash room there where I'll start digging through it, and we'll start liquidating. Anybody got anything else? Send it to us. You got uh, Craig. Craig, what's your address
And I
again? It's a
PO
do you want to?
Box 442, Green, Ohio 44232. That's
Yeah.
Post Office Box 442, Green, Ohio 44232.
Yeah, so you
And
guys,
also,
we appreciate that. And
that's uh,
If you haven't seen Craig's desk, I have seen it, and it's I don't know how he finds anything on it.
I also got some of these that you sent me.
Yeah, that was Dave the Disciple sent
Yeah,
those to me, and
some of those. If you
I sent them to you.
would like one of those, I don't know. I'd like to get $100 for one of those. Those pretty nice.
Yeah, somebody was asking, who's that sitting between Ronnie's legs? Isn't that Chris Pyle?
This file. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. I need to put my
Artemis
microphone up
boy.
here. Yeah, that'd be nice if somebody would donate $100 for one of those. I think it's worth it. They're
And
pretty
you'd
cool.
even sign it, wouldn't you, Craig?
Yeah, I could sign it right above my head there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I got a bunch of those too. I think I got left if you run out.
no,
Yeah, so
I've only got a couple of those. I mean, but I got a couple of extras, and little bit helps.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
one thing Kenny Phillips was telling me when I interviewed him, and you guys listen to that interview because it's coming up right after this jibber jabber which I didn't know. And he said Ronnie would kind of like take things that happened to him and mix them all together for a song. And that Curtis Lowe, he said that he got Lowe from a movie theater that used to be right there in Jacksonville. And you said something about you had a Lowe movie theater up there where you live,
Lowe's,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I think every town had a damn Lowe's movie theater.
Yeah.
That
So he
was a
thinks
really
that
popular
came,
name for a movie theater.
the name Lowe came from that theater, and then,
Yeah.
and, that doesn't necessarily mean there was a Curtis guy named Curtis Lowe. That's where he got the Lowe from. And then, of course, I think Ed changed the spelling on it, and for the liner
What
notes.
he said about Ronnie taking things from other people, it was true. He took a lot of stories from other people. He loved to talk to people and have them tell him stories, and then they would tell him a story, and he'd get an idea for a song, and he did that a lot. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like
an
that
awful
one
lot.
song
He
that
liked to talk to people and see if they couldn't give him a hook line.
yeah,
Everybody, you talk to people and they've always got this little catchphrase or whatever.
like that bus driver that
like
said,
but you got that shit right. You got that shit right. Yeah,
That's,
it's where he got it, man.
that's where he got it. You got that right.
Yeah, yeah, that's where he got it. Yeah.
You got that right. That's
You say something to that bus driver. You got that right. Yeah,
So Ronnie goes,
that's where
"Hey,
it
that's a
came from,
song.
man. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a song." Yeah, so you guys stick around for the Kenny Phillips. Yeah, it's a pretty interesting guy, and he also donated a shirt too. My blood is blue or something like that.
My
Uh,
grass is blue. Yeah.
yeah, my grass is blue. Yeah, well, we got my blood is blue. But anyway, yeah. So that's cool. Couple items that we can liquidate and give to Gene Odom. So. Hey, and you had posted something about Sally Arnold on your Facebook, and I was
Oh
kind of
yeah, yeah, yeah. Kathy Keeble actually sent me a interview with Sally Arnold, and I've spoke about Sally Arnold before. She was like, that's Lay Down Sally from Eric Clapton, yeah. And she was real good friends of all of ours. She's the one when we were in Europe. She took me out one night clubbing and took me all to the places where all the rock stars hung out and all the people. She's a real society person. And yeah, she took me to Keith Moon's house and took me all over. Yeah, I think she was the one that introduced us to Lady Lampton. And yeah, her and Dean had a little thing going on, and she kind of talks about that. That was real cool. I never even knew her and Dean were that serious. she came down to Jacksonville that time, and she was. I've got video of her, me and her and Dean, and I think I had my family with me too, out on Alan's boat, and then we went to Dean's parents had a yacht down dock down there, and we stopped, and he jumped on his parents' boat and got some life jackets. We had too many people on Alan's boat, so he had to get some life jackets. So we went over to Dean's parents' boat and got some life jackets. Yeah, that was Sally Arnold on that boat. Yeah, she's real cool. But yeah, it was good to see that interview with her. Yeah.
But she said that dated movie stars or something, and I said, well, maybe it was
Oh,
just
she said, yeah, Dean kept hitting on her, but she thought that she wasn't in the same class as the woman that Dean dated because he dated movie stars or something.
He's probably had that mixed up with Linda Blair.
That's not necessarily the case. Yeah, Dean and I were really close. I couldn't believe that I don't think Dean ever told me that he asked Sally to marry him. It took me by surprise. I'd heard that before, but didn't know about it. But I'd heard her say it. Yeah.
But speaking of the movie stars, a lot of people, they'll say like, why don't you get Linda Blair on? I say, well, like, okay, give me her phone number and I'll call her.
I haven't talked to her.
Ask her. It's like, like Craig and I have a Rolodex to the stars. You need to get Ted Nugent on there, man, and find out what happened to that money. And I was like, well, let me have his phone number because it ain't like I can just drive up to Ted's house and knock on his door.
Somebody said that Ted had gone over that topic once on a podcast, and that he had said that he wasn't real sure what happened to that money because at that point in time, his management, he had problems with his management, and he said he really couldn't be sure what happened to that money. But then we talked to we're friends with that woman in Canada, and she said she worked with that guy and the promoter guy that did those shows, and that money was given to one of the wives. And then we just recently, I'd heard this before, but I'd kind of heard that one of the other people said that they remembered that somebody said they got that money and they were going to put it aside for the education of the band's children. Instead of giving that to the survivors of the plane crash, they were going to designate that money to be used for the education of the band's children. Now, Alan's children never went to college. Steve's girl never went to college. Alan's girls never went to college. Billy's boys, one of them, Brandon, was the only one that I'm aware of that ever went to college, and I'm not aware that his education was funded by that money at all. So, the person that got that money that should have gone to the survivors just kept it.
Yeah, so in case of people aren't
that's
sure.
what Ted said, that he donated 2 sold-out shows to the survivors of that plane crash, and they gave it to one of the wives of one of them, and she kept the money.
It was actually the shows that they were supposed to do with Skynyrd. He went ahead and did it, and then donated the money.
Yeah.
So Ted, if you're
listening, then she designated that money to go to the education of the children, and the children never used the money, so she just kept the money, or they just kept the money.
Yeah. Well, the only way to find out is to ask Ted. So anybody knows Ted?
Ted said he doesn't. No, that's what I said. That Ted said that he can't be sure because he was having problems with his management, but that person said that she said that she got. They said they got the money, and they designated to go to the education of the children. So
Well, okay.
what happened?
So anyway, on another note, then somebody was asking in the comments about the tour bus that crashed into the bank. Now we did cover that on another podcast, but
We
you can go
did
over
cover
that
that
again.
once before. I guess the
Yeah.
air brake let loose while the bus was parked somewhere at the hotel in the front of the hotel, and I guess the air brake let loose and rolled down into a bank. And the headline in the paper was rock band's bus rocks bank or something,
Which is kind of
something to
weird
that
because the
effect.
way a brake works on a bus is you have to have pressure on it to release it. If you didn't have pressure, it engages. So that's sounds like some sabotage.
Ed King thought he got a big kick out of that. That was one of his favorite stories,
Yeah, I heard him tell that
memories.
story
Yeah,
once.
that was one of his favorite memories. Yeah.
Then another guy was asking about when Alan, I guess you guys were at the Lloyd Noble Arena, and that's when he found out that Kathy, his wife, died.
Oh gosh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That Larkin was there, and Larkin was going to have me ride with Alan, and it was just me and Mike Sparks, that could make sure that everything got taken from the gig and put in the truck properly. So they were going to have me go, and for some reason there was something that I had to be to the next show because I was like the production manager, stage manager, production manager. Mike was the guitar roadie, but I needed to be at the next gig, and I knew how to do guitars, so I could take care of all of that. So it was better for Mike Sparks to go. Yeah, but we found out about it, God, right in the middle of the set. They called us to the thing, and they said, Larkin said, as soon as we come off stage, I want you to get in the car with Alan Craig and go get on the Learjet and fly back to Jacksonville. And I said, well, it'd probably be better to have Mike Sparks go because he was good friends with Alan. Because I was such good friends with Alan, and I said, well, Mike Sparks is good friends with Alan too. He can do it, and I need to go to the next gig. So that he was so jacked up about the show, man. He didn't even think about, you know. He said the whole ride to the airport, Alan was just going, "Hey, that was a great show. Yeah, 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 it was a great show." And they were trying to tell him that there was something wrong in Jacksonville, and he was just kind of like going on, and he didn't really wake up to the fact that there was an emergency back in Jacksonville until they got to the airport and he was getting on a Learjet to go back to Jacksonville, and that's when Mike said he finally realized that there was a problem. But well, by that time Kathy was dead. I mean, they told us in the middle of the show Kathy had died. She died right there at the movie theater. So yeah, we had to sit. I was tore up about the thing. I was sitting there. Alan was having a good time playing, and I'm sitting there going, God, if you only knew, dude.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was horrible. I was just about in tears sitting there on
How do
stage.
you tell somebody that? That's the
Yeah,
problem.
we had to act like there was nothing happening so they could finish the show because we couldn't tell Alan that happened until the show was over. It sucked. It wasn't
Yeah, it's
fun.
he had a bout of bad luck there right at the end, and I think that's what took him out. It's just too much bad luck. So, hey, on a different note, why don't you talk about that new footage that you realize you had of the hot rod that you're
Oh
gonna?
God, I got all kind of 8 millimeter stuff that I don't even know what's in there. But I was just thinking about. I got all a whole 8 millimeter tape of footage of when I built the hot rod in the studio down on A1A, and I don't think there's ever been any real pictures or any film footage of anything of the studio down at A1A, and I think I don't know, I might have just got me building the hot rod, but it's the band are all down there, and I got the engine on a stand, and it's all chromed out, and they're all looking at the engine and stuff on a stand. And
So that's a Stone Roadie exclusive.
yeah, that's when when I was going to start the car out, Gary Rossington, when he said, when you start this car, you call me, and I'm going to come up here. I want to hear it when you first get it started. And I said, okay. So I call him. I said, I'm going to get it started here. I'm going to try to start it here in a little bit. So he got there, and then I tried to start it. And when you try to start a car, you got to turn the distributor on those old hot rods and try until the timing is right. I'm turning the thing and going, and he wrote a guitar part to that. Oh God. I can't remember the guitar part as he they wrote a guitar part.
Yeah, that can be somebody's homework to find out what guitar part that was.
Oh, when I hear it, I can't remember. When I hear it, I know the song. I know exactly, but I can't think which one it is.
So what all did you get on the video that you think you
just
said
me with the engine, the whole, like when Steve Reynolds built the engine mount that I was talking about, Steve Reynolds built, I was saying, yeah, this is what I'm doing.
Was that a VHS camcorder? Or 8mm? 8mm?
Mm-hmm. No,
okay.
8mm tape.
So you got to get it transferred to digital.
I have an 8mm tape here, or a player. I can transfer. I can take it down to my buddy and have him do it. But I can do it here too, I think.
Yeah. So you guys stand by, man, for the.
I got all kinds of. I've got every show that they did in Japan, everyone, on tape, and I just go out at the soundboard and set up a camera and point at the stage. So it's just one shot, the whole show. But what's cool is after the show, I'd go out and get the camera and I'd film all the people leaving, and the people in Japan, and they're all going, hoi, 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 good show, Lynyrd Skynyrd, hoi, hoi, hoi. It's really funny.
Yeah, Leslie was telling me that those Japanese, man, they get serious. And they know all the words to all the songs, and they're out there singing it better than Ronnie.
Sweet home baby.
Yeah,
it was a real popular Japanese band that was over there when we were there, called Idlewild South, and they were Japanese.
I remember something about that too.
Yeah. Japanese southern rock band. Yeah, they toured with us. It was fun.
Well, Craig, I just went over all my notes I wrote down. That's probably about 45 minutes, and then we got to watch the Kenny Phillips. One other thing, when I was down there, and Kenny Phillips had mentioned, and it reminded me of something when I was talking to him. He said, that's a lot of people came from Florida that were rockers, up in the Jacksonville area. And he said, look at Jim Morrison of the Doors was born right here in Melbourne. And I said, oh, that's right. I'm going to go over there and videotape where Jim Morris spent the first few years of his life. And I got that on video, but that won't be on this podcast. I'll put it on another one, but I got a little bit of video. And then the guy that owned the place came out and started trying to yell at me because I was videotaping. I said, well, if you didn't buy Jim Morrison's house, you wouldn't have to worry about it. I can't be the only one that comes over here and looks at it. That's what happens when you buy a celebrity house. You're going to have to deal with that kind of crap. So, but yeah, that'll be on a different podcast, but we're going to do that Kenny Phillips now. So Craig, let's go ahead and
Well,
And,
I want to. We've got a. You were telling me you noticed we got a lot more subscribers, and I said that I was on the Biker Inner Circle
oh yeah, that radio
radio
show
show,
you did.
and
Yeah.
they've got like a couple 100,000 viewers, I guess. And they were talking. You know, they were pumping the Stone Roadie show pretty bad. So yeah, I've been getting a lot of friend requests. You know, so.
Yeah, Craig had an
Welcome
interview
all
with
you
what was the
people
name of
from
it?
or
What was the name
Bikers
of it?
Inner Circle, BICradio.com, Bikers
Yeah.
Inner Circle Radio.com. Yeah. And it's a good station, man. It's a internet station, and I listen to it a lot. And then they play a lot of good music, man. It's pretty cool biker stuff, you know.
Yeah, we did. Well, between Leslie Hawkins coming on and then that internet radio, yeah, our subscriptions bumped up a little bit. We saw a spike. Yeah, you guys like and subscribe because, like I said, we get paid monetized from our subscriptions, and we need all we can get. So, do us a favor.
What was the other one? I'm not a very good.
Yeah, I think we need to leave it up to the musicians.
Woo!
Craig.
I do a good cow. All right.
All right.
Oh, yeah. Enough nonsense. All right. I hope we woke you up here. Have another cup of coffee. And this was number 130 of the Stone Roadie Show. And, yeah, we got,
Wake and Bake 14.
yeah, Wake and Bake 14. Yeah. And the Morning Buzz. Yeah. And we got us a Morning Buzz this morning. And I'm gonna go get in my plane and take a buzz out to the airport. And yeah, see you later, alligator at the Wild Crocodile. And we're gonna call that a wrap for this portion of the Stone Roadie Show, and get ready for the video that's coming up. See you later. Bye. Oh, where's the thing at? Oh. Under my kazoos. Kazoo.
Griff Martin on the road, very windy on the road at Earl's Hideout, Melbourne, Florida. And waiting on Kenny Phillips to show up. Cool little place right on the Indian River. I'm gonna go in and see what's going on. On the road with Griff Martin, and here I am at Earl's Hideout, and of course, here we go again with Lynyrd Skynyrd, Freebird. As soon as I walk in the place, how crazy is that? Every single time.
Said, I'm not going there if the wind's blowing and it's cold and I don't play. When I said, okay, whatever you want. I said,
Okay, on the road with Griff Martin, and here I am in Melbourne, Florida, I believe, or is this Sebastian? It's Sebastian, Florida, and with Kenny Phillips. And he invited me down here to Earl's Hideaway, and crazy thing, and we were both just taken aback by it because I just arrived here and he arrived at the same time as me, and God is my witness, and so is Kenny. Freebird was playing, and of course I recorded a little bit of it. What do you think about that? What do you thought about that when you walked in, Kenny?
Griff, the hair on my arms was standing up. I was literally looking all around the bar going, is Griff already here?
Yeah.
Who's playing it? Who's doing this?
He said he even called his wife and said, can you believe that? I mean, it just happens every time, and it's just like Craig said, it's divine intervention.
It is.
So anyway, Kenny Phillips, interesting guy, and he contacted Craig, and Craig sent him to me because I wanted to do an interview with him, and Now this guy is like Lynyrd Skynyrd royalty here with the guys that, I mean, he grew up with all of them, and it was mainly Larry Junstrom, wasn't it, Kenny?
Yes, it was.
So let's go back in time and talk about when you met Larry, and then the things that came about since you met Larry, like meeting the other guys.
All right. A little timeline down here. I'll start from the beginning. In 1966, my first band that I was in was in Brandon, Florida, and I was in a band with Ben Schultz and some other gentlemen. Ben later went on to become famous by touring with Jimi Hendrix, and played with the John Butcher band, Barefoot Servants. And my parents moved to Jacksonville. This was in 1967. I had the itch for wanting to be in a band when I got to Jacksonville. My parents lived in the San Souci area, which is south side. Not too far, I think, from where Derek Hess lives, or lived. And on the way to school, I heard a guitar player practicing in his garage. Understand this, we all, and I never will be nothing more than a garage band musician, but I went up to talk to the little fella. He says, yeah, we need a drummer. Come on over to the west side of Jacksonville. That's where it's happening at that time, at 67. So I went over there and joined the band, and we started practicing on Tegner Drive, which is in Lakeshore. It's off of San Juan Avenue and Jamie's Road. And we're practicing one day in the garage and had the garage door open. Here walks this long, tall, lanky fella with another guy that I later found out was Larry Steele. And the purpose of Alan walking in was he had heard our loud playing, because the band I was in did a lot of heavy stuff like, you know, Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath. It was heavy music. But he could hear us all the way from Alan's mom's house. And as the crow flies, Eva lived just on the other side of Jamie's Road, probably just a few blocks. He came walking in and he saw my guitar player's gold top Gibson, and he was just, Alan loved gold top Gibson, and I understand later he had a double cutaway, he had two of them, but can I play that? My guitar player was like, didn't really know who he was, none of us really did. He sat down and he started playing certain notes, and everybody in the band, including myself, was like, boy, this guy's really gonna be something. And you gotta understand, we were all competitive back in Jacksonville. All the garage bands were. Even old Joe Crimp will tell you that we were all kind of like the battle of the bands, played the same venues. That band that I was in played at the same venues as 1%. It wasn't really Skinner, but it was 1%. Larry was the bass player. Woodstock Teen Center, West Side clubs, Comic Book Club, which was earlier called the Beachcomber. All these venues we all either played at, sometimes loaned each other equipment, but the bands were really good about doing that. And that was the first time that I had actually met Alan, but he came around again whenever he wasn't busy. It was a very rare occasion, because you got to understand, here's the difference between Ronnie Van Zant and the rest of us. Ronnie Van Zant was serious about music at that time. I think the rest of us were like, well, if we do, we do, we don't, we don't. And I was the least serious about everybody, I think. Their work ethic was like they worked practice 7 days a week. Fast forward a little bit, and I got a job to start making extra money at an auto parts place called Obie's Auto Parts at Atlantic Boulevard. Turns out Larry Jensen works there. Larry Jensen works there. Sorry about that, we'll kill. Larry Jensen works there. I'm delivering auto parts. We get striking up a conversation about bands and stuff, and he was really excited about the group he was with. And we just became good friends because he had the same interest I did. Larry was really interested into ham radio and CBs, which I was as well, and my brother. In fact, I remember Larry's call signs. I think I wrote it down at one time. I remember it was K4EB. That stands for known for excellent bass. Everybody in the world that communicated on ham knew that call sign, not necessarily who was behind it. But anyways, we just hit it off. And so from that point forward, every venue we would play at, if 1% was there, and he was there, I always felt like, you know, my friend was going to hang out, as musicians did, either before or after the shows.
Kenny, let me just ask you something real quick, interject. Okay, who was in 1% at the time, if you can just tell us?
Let's see. I've got a good timeline here. Here's one for you. The very first band, LJ told me this is from him. The very first band he was in was called Me, You, and Him. That consisted of Gary Rosington, Bob Burns, and LJ. Imagine that, three-piece band. And then after that, I think they went on and became something else. The Pretty Ones, LJ went to work for another band for a short period of time, and then when he got with 1%, it was basically, most all the members you know, I think Alan, Gary, and of course Ronnie, LJ playing bass, and they were, at that time, they really had a lot of good songs besides the cover songs, which we all were doing, you know, cover songs. And I think that's, like I said, what separated us from the rest of the world was all these bands were doing cover songs, and Ronnie, with his knack for rhyming words, was able to come up with, you know, with originals. And man was a genius at that. He could absolutely memorize. Never wrote nothing down that I recall.
So I may be jumping ahead, but so when you met 1%, when did you first have a conversation with Ronnie Van Zant?
Didn't really have so much conversation with him because he was in his own little thing. He was always with LJ and Alan.
Yeah.
And I don't think Leon was playing bass with them at that time. I want to say it was somebody else playing bass because Leon didn't show up somewhere else down the road at some other point in time. But I do believe they had another bass player. But I think I was kind of intimidated. That's more than anything else. But let me say this much. His presence was intimidating enough as it was. And not only his, but Gene Odom, Gene's brother, and another gentleman.
Talking about Red Odom, or?
Well, no, I had heard about Gene's brother through the grapevine. You know, when everybody said, "Oh no, don't say nothing about this." And there was another fellow in the mix that was probably the baddest of everybody on the West Side, old Junior Bullard. And I worked with Junior's cousin later on in life when I left the music scene in 1973, 74, and started the crazy world of being a repo man. And that's what I stayed many years while I was raising my son. But at that time, at 1%, to answer your question, it would have been at the Comic Book Club. And I don't want to forget a funny story about Bob Burns, because I saw the podcast y'all did with Yogi the other day, and I got thinking, well, what about the old days of Bob? And so that 1% show was at Forest Inn off of Lakeshore Boulevard. This little back in the woods, nothing building was cement floors in the front of the place. Literally right in front of the WQIK tower. If you go to Jacksonville and you see the radio tower there, radio tower was there. The clubs we played at was here. The Van Zants lived just to the north of that, there on Mole Street. Bob lived over there on the street behind it. LJ lived on Edgefield with his parents. I lived on Mizell Street. So we're all within walking distance of each other's houses. Anyways, make a long story short, we played at Forest Inn. I don't know if Joe's band was there. I think Black Bear Angel was doing a show there. And maybe Leon's band, and that's why he wasn't with 1%. It was King James Version. And back in them days, we all had problems. This is the quick funny story. We all had problems with the police as far as narcotics officers. And there were some famous ones in Jacksonville back then that we all knew. One of them sticks in my mouth. His name was Taft. And we're at that show one night, and then come the police walking in the Forest Inn. And Bob Burns told me that they were after Red, who was the owner of that place. And he said, "No, they ain't after us. They're after Red, for whatever reason." And they come in there and ask everybody to go outside while they could search the building. This will tell you what kind of humor Bob Burns had. Bob walked up to one of the narcotics officers. He said, I'll tell you where the dope's hidden at.
What was that again?
He says, "I'll tell you where the dope's hidden at."
Okay.
And of course, these police officers are all Oh, really? He says, yeah. They got all the LSD hidden in the microphones inside the building. So all the police all went running back inside the forest inn. That time he said, run, let's all run. And everybody went running through the woods back there. And instead of going to Bob's house, which was to the right on that street, we all went to LJ's house, which was our parents' house, to hide out. And I asked him later, I said, why do we do that? Why don't we just go to your place over there? And he said, because they all know where I live. So I'm like, okay, it made sense. But that was just the kind of stuff that he did and pranks that he did. And I know he had his bad days and he had his good days. I think the darker days was after that plane crash because it affected everybody. It affected me as well. Shortly thereafter that, skip a few years, let me back up a little bit. About a year or two later, 1% becomes Lynyrd Skynyrd, and it was in 1971.
So you think that they actually adopted the name Lynyrd Skynyrd in 71? Is that what you're thinking?
I think it's more like 1970 was when the magic happened. And I'll tell you why I know that. One night at the Forest Inn, Ronnie had got up on stage and he said, because he knew all of us were all like friends. Everybody on the west side and in Shantytown all went to that little dive bar. What do y'all think about the name Lynyrd Skynyrd? Because they had already done a little single, I think it was the one that they did with Marvin Gaye's manager, hooked them up with a record label, and they did Michelle and another one, and they misspelled the name. I wished I had that single, but if you can find it anywhere, it's Lynyrd Skynyrd is misspelled.
Yeah, I actually have seen a flyer, and I think maybe they spelled their name differently until they thought about it and changed it. Because
I'll tell you when the magic was done was at LJ's house.
Okay.
Strictly from him. He said they sat around one night talking about it. Said, "Oh, what do you think?" They were kicking it back and forth. And of course, Coach Skinner's name was brought up. God rest his soul. And that's when they were kind of made it in concrete. It was at LJ's house. Played a show with Forest Inn, and Ronnie got up on stage and said, "What do y'all think about us calling ourselves Lynyrd Skynyrd?" And everybody just went nuts. The whole place just went, yes, 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 yes. They did a show that I was at, and this is when first time they played Freebird to the public. Absolutely the first time, even though I had heard a raw version of it earlier with 1% or whatever they were messing with it. But they did a show at the Jacksonville Art Museum, and I'd done a show there as well. It was April 26, 1970. It was that was the benefit we did for Harley Lamoureux. It was, I played there in January 70 with Black Bear, Skynyrd, King James, and my band opened. And let's see, it was May the 9th, 1970. I found my notes. Freebird was played for the first time at that old art museum place. It was like a women's garden club to me down Riverside Avenue in Riverside. And,
I don't want to interrupt you,
sure,
and I might have to get you just to speak up a little bit because I can hardly hear you. And I know. So let's just go back again to you lived near the Van Zant's house.
Oh yeah.
So
absolutely.
where at did you live?
Oh my God, I lived on Sunderland Road, Birkenhead Avenue.
And you met Alan not in your neighborhood, or any of the guys in 1% really not in your neighborhood, but at a gig.
Well, more or less, I met Alan kind of in the neighborhood because Tegner Drive is a crow flies. It was on the other side of the bridge where Ronnie and Gene used to go fishing. Gene will.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about, and Gene told me about catching mullet.
They did. They went
out there with
throwing nets at, underneath that bridge down there on Lakeshore and San Juan Avenue.
And you knew Joe Crimp at that time as well?
I had seen Joe in his band, so no, we didn't really have a whole lot of interaction. But if another band member needed something, it would have been. But we either played at the same venues or saw our names on the marquee at these little teen centers, high school dances or whatever, But I knew of Joe. And
but just for aspects of people being able to follow, I just wanted to get an idea of
where it was that you lived, and I knew it was near Ronnie, and just
Lakeshore.
Okay.
I mean, right in the heart of it, like everybody else.
Right. Okay. So you were a West Side guy.
I sure was. I ended up that way. My parents moved to South Side, but at that age, and I'm going on 18 years old, I was never home. I was always either sleeping with the band equipment at our garages,
right,
or once in a great while, you could sleep down there at the Forest Inn.
So you were part of that really cool era in Jacksonville,
Yes.
when all these up-and-coming bands.
Yes.
Okay, I was just trying to give everybody that's listening a feel for, where you were at that time and where you lived and things. So we can go back to what you were talking about as far as when Freebird was first played.
Yep. That was its first instance, and it was in 1971. I've never been to Hell House. Never once ever stepped a foot out there. Knew about it, but didn't go out there. But I have been in the Mandarin practice place they had. It's down in Mandarin, an old farm barn out in the middle of nowhere in the woods. And LJ stayed out there in 1971, and I just stopped by there to check on him.
So he was living there, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Staying there. His equipment. I stopped by there, and
And you guys were like what age then, you think?
God, still teenagers. Yeah, he was a year older than me, I think. Still teenagers, but I went out there with that Larry Steele and another friend of mine named Dickie, and LJ was sitting in there and he had his head down. And this is something that's not in any book, it's not written anywhere. And he was kind of depressed and down and everything. I said, "What's wrong? What's wrong, Mr. Bass player?" He had his amplifier over there. Bass. He said, "Ronnie let me go."
Oh, wow.
He said, "Let me go. I'm not going to be the bass player anymore. I don't know what I'm going to do."
And was that when they were 1%, or it wasn't Lynyrd Skynyrd yet?
Right. It was really, but they all knew they were onto something big. And that magic was all there with everybody. And the truth of the matter is, and out of respect for him, but the truth of the matter is, and I'm no better than anybody else at that time. I understand that. I smoked just as much weed as Craig Reed ever did. And in fact, everybody had nicknames then. Mine was Squirrel Man because I was bad about trying to do psychedelics and play the drums. Bad idea. But the truth is, LJ says, "Well, he let me go because I got busted and I might be doing jail time." And Ronnie was committed. Everybody in that band at the time, he was just hardcore committed. This is going to work, gentlemen.
Okay.
And I can't have a band if you're not here. So he replaced him with that other guy.
So you came into that place,
Yep.
and Larry Junstrom was sitting there. He looked
Yep.
like he was kind of depressed,
He was.
and then that's when he told you that Ronnie let him go, and it was because he might be doing time.
Yeah, but he never did time. And in fact, later on in the years when LJ came back, joined 38 Special, and then I met up with him again to go see him. He told me that he went to Miami, Florida, and got a job on a cruise boat. They got music on cruise boats and stuff, and that's what he did during that interim.
So between 38 Lynyrd Skynyrd and 38 Special, he was on a cruise boat.
Yes, sir. Down in Miami,
basically
Florida.
doing bass.
That is correct.
Well,
And,
that's
as a matter of fact, the music he was playing, he told me, was like kind of a funky type. It wasn't the southern stuff that we were all doing. Certainly not hardcore like I did, but it was more of a funky, not really jazz, but it was like R&B music. But it was money. We all needed money.
Right. So can you speak as to how it is that 38 Special picked him up?
Oh, absolutely. They all knew each other because at one time, so many people changed bands so many times. We all changed bands like we did our shorts.
Yeah, Joe Crimp speaks about that,
We did. It's the truth.
Yeah, people would get their feelings hurt, because you wanted to go better yourself, but you were playing with a band, and you say, "Hey, look, I hate to leave you guys, but I got a better opportunity over here," and so that kind of stuff happened often too.
Well, but Larry also knew Donnie Van Zant, either from earlier days and stuff, and had met him, and he had found out about that. Had bass player that, I think his name was Ken Lyons, that left. I think it was 1978, if I recall right, because it wasn't long after that, then I got invited over Skynyrd's studio on Riverside Avenue when they were doing Wild Eyed Southern Boys. I was the, what's the word I'm looking for? I provided the party favors, the beer.
Okay.
Because I knew the guys liked long neck bottle of Budweiser, so I'd bring a couple of cases of long neck Bud from around the corner of the bar, which was behind the old Skynyrd studio. I think it's not there anymore. It's 220 Riverside Avenue, if I remember. It's not too far from the YMCA place. And I saw him then, and it was like old times again. And I said, well, I'm not doing music anymore. I'm now doing crazy stuff. I'm in the repo world, and we laughed and cut up.
Right.
And just once again, just like with Skynyrd, everybody, they make it, they go out on the road, you don't never see your friends anymore, they're gone, you know, and they're very seldom back, everything. They're always on the road, always touring and stuff. And it was 1982, fast forward a couple more years, and I'm missing a point in there one time because I made a trip to Atlanta.
So you're thinking that Larry got invited into 38 by Donnie?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
That's the way I feel about it. And there's another missing person that I left out at the very beginning, and that's the guy that taught me how to play the drums back in Brandon, Brian Cole, who was the drummer for a band called Mose Jones. That's a really good name to look up on the internet. It'll blow your mind.
Seems like I've heard that before.
Mose was one of the 3 or 4 artists that Al Cooper, and I was there in Atlanta by invitation from Brian at a club called Finocchio's, I think.
Right, yeah.
Another one called Richards was another place they played at when they were in town, because my family, my mom and dad had moved to Atlanta, Doraville, right around the corner from Studio One. There's that Divine Intervention again. They were like on the top of the hill, Studio One.
Yeah, how
Mills
coincidental is that, right? Yeah.
And so I went down and see my friend Brian. I had no idea whatsoever that 1% had become something really big at that particular time in 1972, 73, just before Craig, I guess, became a part of it. So I went to that club that night, and Brian was there. He said Al had decided on, he wanted 4 people for his new label. You know, I think it was called Sounds of the South. MCA was going to fund it. And my friend Brian actually even suggested to Al, said, you got to listen to these guys. These are fantastic. Ronnie got on stage, barefooted as always, like everybody always does. Climbed up on top of the PA system. I'll never forget this. And there was a velour curtain behind the band. Grabbed that velour curtain and swung like Tarzan at the end of their song down into the front of the stage. And I think that just really, things like that really caught Al Cooper's attention, much less how hard they worked 7 days a week. And it was that dedication, I think, is what made him say, I want them. But he also hired my buddy's band, Mose Jones, who label didn't go, I mean, the record didn't really go anywhere. The 2 records he did, and 2 years later, Brian left that band, got in another band. But that was the very, really big kick for Skynyrd. They'd already been doing demos, going to Muscle Shoals. Larry had told me
Was Skynyrd, were they playing cover songs and just with a few originals?
They were doing originals.
They were doing all originals?
At that time.
Okay.
And the show was incredible. That one and the one they did at Richards both, I don't know. Those were some wild clubs back at that time, you know. That was a perfect time, Divine Intervention, perfect time. But here again, years later, I'm back in their lives again, showing up like, y'all know each other? Yeah, we're on the same label. Brian's telling me, yeah, we're on Al Cooper, Mose Jones. I went, this is incredible. This is so, I said, I told him the story about being raised around them in garage bands in Jacksonville. And then fast forward anyways, a little bit more than that, back up to 1982. I moved up there to that area to be closer to my parents.
Which was
Doraville,
which was where the studio was.
Which is the studio was. Larry invited me down there one time when 38 was doing something. I got to meet the guys in the Atlanta Rhythm section, which that was their main hangout, and playing pinball with the guys up there in the, I think, in the front of the I think that's the place for the pinball. But anyways, we'd all go up to Dudley's, go have beer after they would do their music because they're on Buford Highway. But I got a phone call from Leon's girlfriend. She said, Garper's in rehab. He needs a cigarette. Can you go take him some cigarettes?
And can you name who she was at the time?
Yeah, Roxanne.
Roxanne?
She'll kill me for saying her name, but she was his.
Okay.
The guys, everybody in Jacksonville knew that at that time. And weeks later on, they made her get off the tour bus in New Jersey and find a way back to Jacksonville. Anyways, make a long story short, I took off and went over there to my little Datsun truck. That'll tell you what year it was, 82. Wasn't quite 83, because that's when Nissan became the name of it. My little Datsun red truck. Drove over there to go get Thumper, rescue him from that rehab. Get him to the bus station or wherever we couldn't get him back to Jacksonville. The time I got over there, he was already out of there. He done booked it. That's just the way he was.
Oh,
he wasn't
yeah.
waiting for no cigarette. He was already up and gone. So I managed to get a hold of her, and I said, "No, he's already gone. Ain't nothing I can do for him." And years later, I moved back to Jacksonville again. We're gonna get up, in the 90s. And I'm still in the repo business, and I got a repo order on my desk, and I think I know that name, Wilkinson. I know that name.
Oh, yeah?
And so I go over to the house, and this is what's going to get Gene smiling. The only time I ever really saw him up close, Gene Odom, was leaving Leon's old house he had on Vizier, Bizier Road, right off of the landing. And I went over there to talk to him. And I was like, man, this house has got all curtains all over the windows. You can't see in the house. It's all dark in there. And he opens the door and he looks all down and depressed and stuff. I'm like, hey, how you doing? From back in the old days. It's Kenny. I got an order here for a Rhonda. He goes, that's my ex. That's his ex. I said, oh, can you help me with that? It's a Grand Jeep Cherokee or something like that. Jeep Cherokee.
He knew you was a repo guy?
After I told him I was.
Right.
Because, see, everybody always knew me as just a musician at one time. And nobody knew the world I got in when I left the scene, because everybody went their ways. The bands are famous, everybody goes this way.
Right.
So I was sitting there talking to him about it. We talked for almost an hour. And he was telling me about how much pain he was in. And I was trying to say, yeah, dude, since I became a dad, I quit doing all that stuff. I don't do pain pills. I really didn't smoke weed anymore and didn't do psychedelics. And he said, man, Kenny, I'm hurting so bad. That's why I play his bass guitar in this position, because of the plane wreck.
So was that like right after the plane crash?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Because Joe Crimp was living with him as a roommate when the plane crashed. That may have been the house that they were in.
Right. But this is on Busier Road. Gene will tell you about it. This is in the 90s. This is in the early 90s. Actually, Gene was when he was living with Rhonda, I went over there one time, if I can remember the house. It wasn't on Busier, but it was another street over there to the west side off of Landing. But anyways, so I don't get off track, that was in the 90s when I went over there. And long after the plane crash, I could see the toll that wreck was already taken on everybody. Not only Alan, but everything he was going through. And I recall the moment very, very vividly, because it was just like everybody, including Alan, wanted to be like it used to be.
Yeah.
Like it used to be, And he couldn't play except for this position. He was in a lot of pain. And he had all these bottles of bud on the table. And I'm looking at the gold records he had on the wall, and I'm going, man, dude. And he had a royalty check that come in that day. And I'm over there going, wow, you guys, this is what it was like. And he just kept saying, the price we all paid, the price they all paid. So it kind of tugged at my heart a little bit, and I felt bad about being over there for the circumstance. I did get that vehicle, not at that location.
That was his girlfriend, or
Rhonda was his wife.
His wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think she lived at Ponte Vedra or something like that, or maybe that was Artimus. That's another story.
So Leon didn't fight you over the car or anything?
No.
Said take it, huh?
No. This is old. When he was with King James Version, my band that I was in used to open for him in Orange Park, Florida, at a little club out there, and it was like all bands, that's just the way we were. It was all we knew. Might not remembered our name, might remembered our nicknames, and mine was Squirrel Man back then. Everybody, that's Squirrel. That's Squirrely over there because he's doing psychedelics, trying to play like an idiot. But yeah, he was, and he jumps up and he goes, "You gotta go, Gene's here." And I went, "Who?" He goes, "Gene Odom." Oh, yeah, security guy. So I got up and go out the door, and here comes Gene Odom. And I know he'll remember this. He's walking in the driveway. He looks at me like, "Who the hell is this guy?" You know, I'm walking back out to my vehicle.
Yeah.
Gene's walking in the house on a busier road. He goes, "Who is this guy?"
Yeah, and he's pretty observant too about everything, you know.
Well, he was their protector. That's the way everybody. I mean, he was their. That's the word I'm looking for. Everybody knew it too, because he didn't smoke, he didn't drink, he didn't do none of that stuff. He was there.
Try to keep them all straight.
Big brother is a really good word for it, but I mean, he kept everybody straight. There you go. And he was really, really good at what he did. So anyways, so I don't get off track. Fast forward a little bit more time.
So he came walking up, and that's when you met him.
Yes. I did not introduce myself mainly because of the look that I got from Mr. Odom himself.
Did you tell him why you were there?
I'm sure Leon did. As soon as I left, because he's probably wondering, is this a drug dealer bringing in cocaine or something?
So that's the first time you met him, but you didn't spend much time with him, talking to him. Okay.
He was walking up the driveway, and he looked at me as I'm walking out to get back in my car. And I'm pretty sure Leon would have told him, why is this old skinny guy over here? Or I might have been bigger at that time. I think I was much bigger. Back in my band days, I had hair down to my belt like everybody else did. So he wouldn't have recognized me from them days anyways. And I knew he was Ronnie's lifelong friend. I knew the name. I would see him from a distance, like at the clubs we played and stuff. Never introduced because it was like this, you know, we were all afraid of it.
Right.
We don't go messing with somebody's security guy or a bouncer or nothing else.
Yeah.
You know? We're not fighters. Same thing I kind of saw from a distance with Alan, with him being sad, you know, because he was so madly in love with those girls. The night that wreck happened, one of our friends called me and said, "Kenny, can you go get a wrecker to go over there and get him?" I'm like, "No, I can't do it because I'll get fired for doing it." So they'll get somebody to go rescue him because those guys are always wrecking their cars over there.
Are you talking about when Alan was in the wreck with the girl that got killed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I had access to records, you know, being in the repo business. And I was just going to rescue another buddy, go rescue another friend, but I couldn't get it. I got fired from a job. Same thing, fast forward just a couple more years. Same thing happened with Artimus that I really didn't know because he came in later on from up the road.
Right.
Charlie Daniels recommended him. I think he had something to do with Marshall Tucker or one of the bands in South Carolina. And I really didn't know him. Didn't know him from nothing other than the music later on. But I get this repo order, I'm going, oh my God, here we go again, there's more divine intervention. So I went out to where he was living at that time in Orange Park and talked to him. Very nice. Still had a lot of beef with his exes and stuff. And I met with him at the beach one time and he was talking to me about some stuff, all of which is private, all of which I do not want to talk about. But I respect Artie a lot.
Right.
I think he was given a crap sandwich in life, basically. Anyways, so that was more divine intervention with the guys. But mostly from that point in those years, I hung around 38 by Larry and said, "Come on up." He invited me up on a tour one time they did at the Fox Theater, which was Ronnie's favorite place to play. And it was in the 80s. 38 was the main band for Delbert McClinton. And I went, man, and they kept saying, this is what the laugh is all about, you know, all the green room and all the food. Tables full of cigarettes, trash cans full of beer with ice in it and everything. Yeah. And I'm like, oh boy, but I'm still a repo man, guys.
And that's where Artimus said that when they gave him all that stuff, they thought they had to do every single bit of it. You know, drink all the beer, smoke all the cigarettes, and drink all the whiskey.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Everything they brought them, they had to make sure they finished.
They consumed it. And you know another little secret that I'm aware of? Only because of my son's touring with the big bands, not only did we consume what was given to them on their rider, the other bands that didn't consume their stuff, they went after theirs.
Oh, yeah.
That's a very true story.
Okay.
To protect innocent, I won't mention those bands' name, but they clean their clocks on their riders and stuff.
So you hung out with 38 Special a lot because you become friends with Larry, and you guys were pretty good friends.
Yeah. And whenever he was in town, keep in mind now, these guys were always on the road traveling. And this really just rips my heart, but it was recently I found out, because of the social media, which we didn't have back then, that my guitar player, Ben Schultz, was on a tour with 38 Special in the early 90s called the Southern Spirit Tour. Marshall Tucker, John Butcher, 38 Special. I missed my ticket. That would have been a reunion of all going, there's my guitar player, there's my buddies from Jacksonville, to connect Jacksonville from the music scene I grew up from in the Tampa area. And at that time, that's where the Outlaws and all the other, I lived through that era. Right, yeah. But yeah, so that was my convention, divine intervention all throughout all the years. And then as my son got ill with juvenile diabetes, I kind of distanced myself from a lot of musicians. I packed my drums away. I didn't do anything with music. I lived and breathed everything he did, everything he did on the road. And then one day, back in the early 2000s, I run into LJ again on the west side, as we do, because he was living over there, like literally right around the corner from the house that I lived on. I lived on Blanchet Court. LJ lived on like one of the Fairyland streets. 2-3 blocks from me, if you looked it up on the map, you can see what I'm talking about. And I recognized his ham radio tower. And I saw the boat. I think he told me he got it from Ronnie or one of the guys, the one that everybody talks about that they used to take out the black.
You talking about Bad Company?
Yeah.
Oh, so you think Larry ended up with it?
I do. It was a little bass boat.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, it was.
Ask Gene about that, to clarify that, but I'm almost positive he told me that was one of Ronnie's boats, and more than likely the one that they use out of Black Creek where Ronnie liked to go fishing.
Well, this is really good because we don't really get to hear a lot about Larry Junstrom, and anything Larry Junstrom people like to hear. So as far as Larry goes, being his friend, what would you say would be a good description of Larry, his personality? His
personality was a very kind human being, and he was crazy about animals.
Okay.
I mean,
like any animal, or more so dogs and cats, or yeah. So he had a lot of dogs and cats.
That story's been told to me so many times, and I've also seen it with his kennels. So he was a very kind, gentle soul is what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And he had aches and pains too, like I do. I need knee surgery right now. Both my knees are gone.
Right.
Probably from all the years of running. But he was in a lot of pain as well, not even being on the plane crash, but just even up to the hand surgery he needed when he left 38 a few years before he passed. I always considered him royalty with Skynyrd because he was the first.
Well,
I don't care what anybody thinks or says.
Let's talk about his relationship with Ronnie after he left 1%, and were they still friends?
Yes, I think they respected each other. Did Ronnie regret that? No, because when Leon came on the scene, everybody was like, whoa.
Right, yeah.
I do remember this. Craig can probably quote me on this. Ronnie used to say, what he called Leon in his own words was, I need some bottom. This music needs the bottom. Leon provides that bottom, and he's talking about that bass playing. And for every doggone song that Leon did, he provided that much needed bottom to the music they were doing. There's your magic.
Well, how about Leon and Larry Junstrom? Were they friends? They
knew each other.
Yeah.
Saw each other all the time on the road. You got to understand, 38 opened for little brother, opened for his bigger brother on the road a good bit. So yeah, everybody saw each other and got along.
I was just wondering what the camaraderie was between Larry and Leon. Yeah.
No hard feelings. Ronnie made his decisions on that. When he made a decision, he always got his way, and that's what was told to me, by other people that knew him at the time. It was this way or the highway. That's the way it is.
And back to that little bar that you were talking about the first time you saw him play Freebird. What was the reaction of the crowd?
Went absolutely. That was
And was that the first time you'd ever seen it?
No, it wasn't. But it was the first time that he was more or less announcing to everybody that we're no longer 1%. We like this cool name of Lynyrd Skynyrd. What do y'all think? And he made that announcement on stage at the Far Stand that night. I hope Joe Kemp remembers that. I can't remember if he was there, because his band, you got to understand, Slowpoke and Run Easy, we were always jealous of those guys.
Yeah.
They were always first bill before them, and any scraps that the garage bands got was usually when they had a big benefit or a big show like the one I was talking about that Harley did. And there's another big event.
What was Freebird, when they played Freebird that time in the bar, was it the same Freebird as we know it today, or was it different?
I think it was pretty close, but I don't recall Billy Powell playing it at that particular evening. I can't even remember the time. This is so weird because those dates and times, and everybody was joining in and out. And then you got them when they quit, like Leon. All of a sudden, he's here, and next he's gone. You know, and the band was, Ronnie was the heart of that band, keeping these guys together. And everybody was coming and going, getting mad about whatever reason, and Roadie was taking a toll on them. I really think that it was a raw version of it, from what I remember. A very raw version. I wish I could get it.
Yeah, I'm sure they probably perfected it over the years, you know.
Absolutely. There was an instance one time, back when they were 1%, out in the woods of Mandarin, and I went out there with Larry urging, because I knew, he said, this is not a show advertised. This is one of those, we're going to get out there and just do what the hell we want in the woods. And Skynyrd had a flatbed, had generators. I went out there and got hooked up with a promoter for Jacksonville, Sidney Grasham, which I did not know, from Adam's Apple. He was stumbling everywhere, and Larry said, hey, can you give him a ride back to his house? Back to St. Nicholas, because he's our promoter. He's the guy at Jetson Enterprises, brought all the big bands like Bad Company and all the major artists into the Coliseum back in the days. So they would do little shows like that, and also another one that I was at Greenfield Stables. And I'm pretty sure Joe Kemp was there. I was there as Larry's guest, and I helped move a little equipment here and there and provide a little beer for that occasion. And we call those things in those days B-Ns. B-E-I-N-S. There was a Lynyrd Skynyrd B-N, because it would just be a flatbed trailer, generators out there in the woods outside, and just let loose.
Now that Forest Inn, wasn't that like a corner lot, kind of like a corner lot here at church?
No, it was really in the woods.
Yeah.
If you were going down Lakeshore Boulevard.
Is that where Allman Brothers would come and play a lot?
No. The Allman Brothers, back when my band knew them, and back when we jammed with everybody, would have been called the Allman Joys. It wasn't Allman Brothers. And the Allman Joys played at the Beach Coliseum. Joe Kemp's band, I think, opened up for them that time. I was there at that show.
That Forest Inn, was it on the west side?
Yes, on Lakeshore Boulevard.
Yeah, okay.
It was within blocks of Mole Street.
Yeah, and I think that's the place, I believe Joe took me by there.
If I had an ink pen, I could draw you and say, look for the tower WQIK.
Isn't the building still there? Or
I don't know. It's back in the woods. And nothing but bricks would be left. But if you look for the tower WQIK, Forest Inn was in the woods, but it was down a little dirt road off of Lakeshore Boulevard. Skinner's family lived right there. Bob Burns lived right there. LJ lived there. I'm over here. I mean, that whole little neighborhood was just like, how could you not know everybody back then? Like some small world in the music business.
So the feel of things back then on the west side, like, who were the big hitters? Was it Skynyrd, 38?
It was Skynyrd. I would say King James Version was pretty big because of Leon and Drew Lombard, another buddy of mine, who later became Dr. Henry. Rest in peace. And obviously Slowpoke and Run Easy. Those guys. And there was another band out of Tampa that I also knew from being in Tampa called the Tropics. They would come up there and play at the Armory. I think Joe opened for them. Black Bear Angel, Alice Marr. You know, earlier versions of the different names of the bands. But they had so many names, I'd have to list them all. Literally, I mean, it goes like After 5, Noble 5, The Pretty Ones, 1%, just on and on and on and on and on, all the names that they come up with. We change names every week like we did our shorts. Change players in the band every other week, a lot of times.
Yeah.
I did not know the guys in junior high because you got to understand, when I moved to Jacksonville, it was in high school years. I did not attend Lehigh with everybody else. I was at Inglewood, where Butch Trucks from the Allman Brothers attended, and he graduated, I think, the year before I did, and was with another band, and then became the Armageddon. The club you're thinking of is the Comic Book Club. It used to be called the Beach
Oh yeah,
Club.
I remember where that was, but
Two
the
of them.
Forest Inn, it seemed like to me where I saw it, it was like kind of like on a corner lot, and
You really
I'm thinking Joe took me by there, but I can't really
You
remember
can't
too
really
much.
see it that well then
Yeah.
because of the pine trees
Right.
and stuff. It was off of Lakeshore Boulevard, and it was very close to Mull Street. Very in between that and that baseball park, the famous park where Bob Burns got somebody
Yeah.
got smacked with a baseball.
My problem is I don't know my way around Jacksonville too much.
I wish I had a pen and I could draw
Yeah,
from
that's
my
okay.
memory.
Yeah.
Because my daughter went to that same school or that same place where they played ball and everything. And
Now that picture that you showed me wearing that shirt, let's talk about that shirt. And I'm going to put it up on the screen here. The shirt, and then the group of people that you're with, Johnny and of course Gary are there. How'd that picture happen?
I wore that shirt because I'd had it for a while. It was made by the same place that made the one Leon had. I know Kathy Godsey had somebody ask her the other day, why did he wear that shirt on Street Survivors? I know why. To make a statement. Because that's what he was all about. Leon had different hats, that crazy zany Leon, to make a statement, and especially to law enforcement and people that, hey, my grass is blue. It's not brown and it ain't smokable. My grass is blue. It was to make a statement, because right next to him was Artie wearing his vegetarian shirt, I think.
Right.
All to make a statement for that photo op that they did. That's all what that was about. It was nothing, no other major deal about it. But
And where was that picture taken?
I don't recall, because I wasn't in that. You got to understand, you're talking about the Street Survivors would have been just prior to the plane wreck, and at that time, I am probably either in Atlanta or Jacksonville in the repo world, bounty hunter, running the streets day and night, not doing music, but keeping my son. Which, before I forget about it, my son later lived with Leon's Wilkinson's sister's boy. That's Leon's nephew. And one day my son came home and said, Dad, you know where I'm staying now? No idea. He told me, I went, oh yeah, I know.
I wonder if that's the guy that was at the Manatee Fest that brought his hat out there.
I don't know. I don't know, but if it was, you remember my son Kenny 3, who's my CD I showed you for the band that he was in, that AWOL. But anyways, Kenny, I was like, boy, this is divine intervention. Here we go again. I got my own flesh and blood living with.
Yeah, it's
but
crazy.
Now, let me say this about Leon. He did the same thing. He was notorious for when he come into town, staying in somebody's house. Hey, can I sleep on your couch tonight?
Yeah, that's what I hear.
He did that. He absolutely
and
did
somebody told me, and I can't remember who it was, it said that they would be like after a show or something, and they would be looking for Leon, and they said, yeah, somebody said he went to somebody's house down the road, and he's in their living room drinking beer, watching football, and they'd have to go. So it's kind of crazy.
More divine intervention, which rips my heart, was that the night Leon passed away, and where he was at the Marriott, my girlfriend at that time was working there.
Oh wow!
She called me on the phone. She said, "You're not going to believe this. I hate to tell you this, but one of your buddies has passed away, and they're trying to keep it quiet for the time being." Da 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 da. And I said, "Oh damn!" First thing went through my mind was it probably a damn overdose, or something like that, because I knew I had saw him, just years before, and saw the mental state he was in. But like I said, that crash just changed everybody.
Yeah.
For a lot of them,
rightfully so.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
And so this thing that you guys are doing for the survivors now is such a wonderful thing. Let me jump fast forward to everything. And one of the reasons I brought that dobro today and made that comment to you about Gene Odom was, out of all of the, and they all suffered dearly. Because even the poor fellow was it Mark Howard and the other guys?
Yeah. Mark Frank, Mark Howard, yep. Paul Welch, and Leslie. Yep. You know, yep. And of course, you know, those guys really went through a lot.
It's a miracle. And I really get mad when I think about people that were scavenging that site. Just like when I saw something the other day about there were people that scavenged Skynyrd's whole studio. I'm like, why? Why people do that stuff? I mean, I was in that studio bringing beer to the guys and saw a painting one time that Dean Kilpatrick had done that the boys had throwing their drumsticks up against the wall there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, put holes in it. I don't think that's in the book anywhere. I probably shouldn't be telling that, but they used to throw the drumsticks at it, or whatever it is. Mess it up because they knew, you know, that was their place to practice now.
When that plane crashed, let's talk about where you were and what your experience was with that when you heard about it.
Oh my God, I was in Jacksonville. I was back in Jacksonville because I always seemed like my job took me from here to Atlanta back to Jacksonville. Moving my kids back and forth took a toll on them, I'm sure, but I was in Jacksonville. And I'm sitting around and my wife turned on the news and old Tom Wills of Channel 4, which later became friends of the band, was on TV and made the announcement. And it was kind of like when I heard that Elvis had died, I'm like, that's like a part of my childhood.
Which was pretty close to the same time.
Yeah, it's like a part of my childhood.
Same year, you know.
A part of my childhood, and all the guys, everything they had worked so hard for, and everything our dreams for, you know, went down, you know, out there in that wreck. And I felt so horrible. I'm like, dude, what can I do? Can I offer a place for somebody to stay? I didn't know what to do, what to say to anybody because, you know, and so I didn't know how to get a hold of LJ because I don't think we had cell phones back in them days. If I had a phone, it would have been huge. It would have been cell phones. So I didn't know how to get a hold of anybody. So the news traveled differently as it did, you know, nowadays. If something like today, rest in peace, Toby Keith.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God, I was devastated when I saw that this morning. Rest in peace. Sorry for his wife and 3 kids. But back then, we got news, by television news. Oh, God, I was devastated, absolutely. These are all guys that I was playing. Man, no, this is horrible.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's a big chunk of Jacksonville, and I always was so mad about Jacksonville not giving them more recognition.
Yes, Gene says that a lot.
I'll say that a lot.
Yeah.
I back Gene 100%. I'm going to tell you something about Gene Odom, too. Everything that man's ever said is the gospel. I've heard and said, I've seen so many stories about the band did this, the band did that, the band said this, but unless you were there, unless you were in those garage bands, you went in the trenches, and what did Ronnie used to say? We all got to pay our dues. What you got to do? You got to pay your dues.
Well, if it isn't true when Gene says it, he certainly believes it is. That's for sure.
I'm pretty sure. Well, let me tell you something about him. I believe him. He is that man's. Why not? He's the only one of us all that was straight during that period of time. He's the only one that was sober.
I know. Yeah. Gene's a great friend, and he's got a lot of information, and
that's why
people argue with him a lot, you know.
And I get upset about it. I can't say nothing about Judy Van Zant because I've met her and she did me one hell of a favor before my son died. My son was touring. He opened for a band called Disturbed at the old Freebirds, which Judy and Melanie Van Zant owned. And I was going to film my son's show, and the security was Disturbed coming there. I said, no, you can't do that. Judy saw what was going on. She walked over there and said, I know this guy. And I went, you do? I barely ever saw you way back when in the band at all. Let him film his son's show and just get out of the other guy's way. You'll be fine. And she set me up my own spot upstairs at Freeburg's to film my son's show. So I've got nothing bad to say about her. There's been a lot of blah about this, fighting, lawsuits, and all that back in the day, but I stay out of all of that.
Yeah, a lot of people, you know, I hear things that people say about Judy. I'm a neutral guy. You know, I try not to get into that, but my thing is regardless of what Ronnie and her relationship was when they died, that was that man's wife, and out of respect for Ronnie, I don't talk bad about her, and
No, I never.
and nor would I, you know.
I'm not talking about her. I'm not talking about Artimus, any of the other.
And I do hear good stories about things that she does, and you know, and
Yes.
I do try to look at her side of things as well. You know, it's kind of hard to mop up things after such a horrific accident.
Losing somebody. She also opened up a studio on A1A out there at the beaches, a recording studio.
Yeah.
It was very expensive and provided it for these kids, and that's what I'm about now, which leads me to this. Those kids in Six Gun, by the way,
Yeah.
I'm so proud to listen to them and got their first single the other night on my phone, and I'm like, this is fantastic.
Yeah,
Kids
they
that
really,
weren't even alive at that time know this music, especially the little girl that sings, knows this music that well.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. It's really amazing.
I support them, and I support everything that Gene's doing, and Craig's doing, and what you're doing, and everything for the survivors, because Jacksonville really and truly could have done a whole lot more. And if I've got any bad will towards that town, it's because of the recognition we really should have gotten.
Right.
I mean, everybody in Memphis, Memphis, Elvis, right? You know, and you think of Seattle, Nirvana, right? And all those kids.
Yeah,
What about
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville?
Yeah, Skynyrd. Yeah.
And that wasn't the only band, because Lord knows, I remember shows we did on the north side with Molly Hatchet. All became friends with it. Another thing, band I was in next to Lee High School, I told you about that. Danny Joe Brown used to pop in over there all the time and sit down, and they would practice there as well.
What schools did you go to in Jacksonville?
Inglewood.
Okay.
And I went to college there too, which was a waste of time because I was trying to play music, get high at the same time, and that don't go well with studying. But yeah, I knew about that studio because of other musicians and play with them. Nowadays, fast forward, what am I doing nowadays? I'm a session musician. That's why I told you I've got a studio in Vero Beach. I've had to love living in this area halfway down the state. It's the way Jacksonville was at one time. This place is a great venue for musicians.
It's really great.
There's other places. Pat Travers plays here. I've met his bass player.
Is the Sebastian Beach Inn still around? You know, that place on the beach?
I don't think so.
Yeah, that was a really great place. Because this is the area that I'm from too. I mean, you know, Brevard County. I love Brevard County. So
we've got a lot of. We had Jim Wilson from the Doors.
Oh yeah,
from
in Melbourne. That's right.
Dave Feaster, which is a good friend of my wife's, was with the Henry Paul band later on. There's so many famous. Randy Skirvin, who's with Iron Butterfly later on. He lives right here locally. I've met so many wonderful guys.
Yeah.
So I'm doing session work now. The last CD I did 3 years ago, it's on my Facebook and I can show you. Didn't go anywhere because I sit in wherever I'm helped. I do a lot of donate my time and stuff with younger people, help them out, musically wise. And that's why I'm so excited about this.
And that dobro that you're donating, let's talk about that and where'd you get it, and where do you want the funds to go to?
That dobro was given to me by somebody, let me say this much, who was very, very, very close to Larry Jensen.
Okay.
He didn't pay for it, but somebody that was very, very, very close. And, I'll tell you more off camera about all of that because I'm not going to.
Okay.
I'm not going to embarrass her. But it was given to me, and I brought it around. I don't think I brought it on that boat ride, but Larry's band also did that. And in this Divine Intervention Happens, there's another rock band that's now touring with Skynyrd and become quite famous, Blackberry Smoke. Their lead singer lived right up the street from my family, up in Carrollton, Georgia.
Oh, wow.
And so I kind of got to know those guys from going to the cruise and stuff. And I'm like, Charlie, you live here and you live over here. And I met the drummer and thought the world of those kids. You know, they're like 20 years younger than me. But LJ was on that cruise, and Blackberry was on the cruise, and Skynyrd was on it. And Charlie says, well, Skinner's going to do a photo op down there. You used to hang around them. Go down there and see if they'll let you take a picture with them. And I did. And that's the one I'll send you. You can put it on the
Oh, cool.
thing.
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
actually wearing that shirt. It's the only time I ever wore that shirt. The My Grass is Blue shirt. I've included it with that dobro. 2 new boxes of strings, never used. Picks, everything a young player that wants to learn how to play Curtis Lowe.
Okay.
which that's another funny. I've heard so many stories about that. I mean, I knew about Mr. Hamrick also in that little store. We all went down there and shopped.
Yeah. What's your version of the Curtis Lowe?
I know exactly what the version was. I know exactly. Ronnie was a genius at rhyming words. The bar in Jacksonville, and this is hand in hand with a similar song, The Jug, was where Larry Steele and I and Alan Collins used to could go get, not beer, but malt liquor. Not in the bar, because it was a package store down on Edison Avenue in a really bad area of town off of Stockton. And there was an old black man named, I forget his name. He lived right behind the package store. And we go see him, and Larry Steele and Alan would all kick in money, and we'd buy a 6-pack of tall Colt 45, and we have to give, I might have wrote it down, give him 2 of the beers, 2 of the Colt 40, and we get 4 to split between 3 of us. So we had to keep going back. Ronnie wasn't afraid of that place, and I think when Ronnie was 19, he managed to get all the fake ID, and he'd walk right in there. He wasn't afraid of anything. But to fast forward back up to Curtis Lowe, we had a drive-in theater on the other side of where they're all buried at, which the last house I lived at before I moved down here, it's right by that cemetery, by the way, more divine intervention. On the other side of that, on Normandy Boulevard, is a public shopping center. That used to be the old Lowe's drive-in, Lowe's Twin.
Okay.
Ronnie's sitting around going, there's somebody named Curtis, an old musician, trying to put together a book. Curtis Lowe's Theater. Curtis Lowe.
Wow, that's kind of like some really great new information there.
This is fact. He named that song, that Curtis Lowe, came to him because of Ronnie's visionary seeing things was because of that drive-in theater, which was Lowe's Twin Theater.
Wow.
So Curtis Lowe, there was nowhere by the name of Curtis Lowe. And there was no such person. He was a lot of famous blues musicians that he was aware of. And as far as the Brown Jug goes, that little bar up there that I've been at also, not the Jug, where we went behind and got the malt liquor, but Ronnie was singing, cut a rug, cut a rug. What rhymes with rug? Jug.
So he would take like the Lowe's Theater and use that.
And that's how he wrote songs.
Okay.
This is the truth. And he was singing of the Jug, cut a rug.
So it didn't necessarily really have anything to do with a real person.
No,
it was just
the Windaloo thing. There is a pastime. Yes, they all went up there and drank. We all did. I did when we were older, up there on was it Lenox Avenue or whatever. Pastime. Then they called it the Jug and other names. But it was the Jug because it rhymed with rug. I was cutting.
Yeah, makes sense.
And that's the way he did his songs.
So it necessarily wasn't a really Linda Lou and the Jug. It was just that he needed that bar name to match Cut a Rug.
Let me say this: I wasn't around enough to know about all the fights because I'm not a fighter. But there was stories that I heard. Yeah, there probably wasn't doubt about it was a fight maybe at the pastime, but not down at the real Jug.
Okay.
That was strictly, you go in there in that side of town, you get what you want in a package store, and you get out of there. It ain't where you hang around.
Yeah.
And that neighborhood, to this day, it was really, really bad.
This is what we're trying to do is understand what was in the mind of Ronnie, and meeting people like you that was around it, and you kind of like saw the things going on at that particular time, and you're able to put the puzzle pieces together.
These are all really truths that I heard and knew about, even from LJ First and people that was really close to him. He really was, and he didn't really write anything down. He could remember. So, nowadays they got monitors and they can read their own because they can't remember the lyrics and stuff. He knew all that stuff. He knew that if you live the music and you live that life, there's no need to write it all down. You can sing about it, remember it all the time.
Yeah.
But the Jug was nothing more than a rhyme to the cut because he knew he had been there one time, and he went in there and he's about the only one of us that could walk in there and do that. The rest of us had to use Shaky. That's his name. I just thought of it. Shaky, the old black man that lived behind the Jug.
So
Shaky was where we all went and got our malt liquor.
So just so we're straight, the old guy that he got the song about Curtis Lowe from, his name was Shaky, but Lowe?
No. Shaky was the guy that Alan, Larry Steele, and myself went and bought our malt liquor from because we did not have fake IDs like Ronnie had, who could walk in there and get it. No, Curtis probably had a lot to do with him thinking about Mr. Hammer, who owned that store Ronnie worked at, and we used to, here's another place. Nobody ever
and Lowe was the drive-in where he got the last name.
That's where he got the name, Lowe's Twin Drive-In. It's where that public shopping center is now. It's a dip down in there. If you ever go there in Jacksonville and Normandy and you're at that cemetery where they're all buried, you could probably knock a baseball over that cemetery, over that highway patrol station, right over the interstate, and it would land down there where the Lowe's Twin Theater was, where we all went to see movies at. And that's where he got the name Lowe for Curtis Lowe.
Oh, wow, cool.
That is a fact written in stone. I put my hand on the Bible with that. He was really, when he see things and live things, that's what he wrote about. Just like I've heard Craig talk about bullets. You know, being when the idiots are throwing bullets on the stage. No, it's about the bullets they got.
I have to say, I even thought, I didn't know what bullets were until, which I found out several years ago, but so a lot of people don't realize that stuff.
But to know them it was a real privilege growing up in that time on the west side, going through those trenches, playing in the same doggone, paying my dues in those bars. I broke drumsticks, didn't make $20 a night, broke drum heads. One time Bob Burns, he had a drum set, back when he was in 1%, he didn't have a tom-tom on it, and I felt bad, and his drum set, I think, was silver or gray. And I had a spare tom-tom another drummer had loaned to me that I was going to make mine a bigger kit, but my kit was red. I had a red Ludwig set. And I walked over there and just gave it to him. And I said, hey, this is where musicians do that sort of stuff. We like to give instruments and help other guys out. But Bob's first kit was that way. And then I think Papa Van Zant, that I met later on that I told you about at Melanie's birthday party, at Steve Irwin's bar on Park Avenue in Riverside, Kenny Wayne Shepherd showed up to play for his girlfriend, which was Melanie at that time. Papa Van Zant was there, and I told him I really didn't have no money. I was just old broke repo man. He laughed about it, and signed the book, handed it to me. And that's the one that's at my brother's place in Carrollton.
Yeah, we've been getting a lot of those books, and people
I got to go find that
really
book, donate that to you guys. And I will be going up there one day in the future once I get my knee surgery out of the way. I got to go.
We appreciate that, and thank you so much for that dobro. I'll have to get that on video. And you want the proceeds from that to go to Gene? You said
Gene needs to sign that.
Okay, we'll get Gene to sign it, and he'll do that. He's coming to my house probably next week.
Knowing what he went through, that Leon told me in private at the house that day.
Yeah.
You know me, I'm this old nosy kid anyway, and I'm going, wow, what happened to this? Was there any, I was just, and there was so many stories I've heard on TV and everything, just not true. Not true. But when he started telling me the stuff that even Gene went through, and I'm like, okay, well, great. The other guys went to get help, but this is our security guy, and what he went through is horrible. Horrible.
And he still suffers. I mean,
he still suffers, yeah. And
losing his eye was like,
that was it.
So bad.
Because see, I'm diabetic. And I worry about that all the time, losing my eyesight. I'm like, I can't imagine.
And that's, what we look for, people that have things that, like you, and, come forth with stories, and we love that. And then when you donate things and get them to the people that need it, like Gene, that's what it's all about.
So the grandkids or kids ever ask me, Grandpa, did you ever play with it? No. 1% did a show one time, a benefit, on University Boulevard at this place, and my friend was there with Mo Jones. They oversold the tickets, benefit. Too many people were there. Artimus got on stage. He didn't last 1.5 songs. He was like, I can't deal with this. The heat, and it was stifling heat. Air conditioners quit working.
Yeah.
Can you imagine a building full of that many people?
Oh my, it's like the Hell House.
My friend Brian said, well, Kenny, why don't you get up there and get on the drums? Because I know you know that music and everything. And that was my only one opportunity that I blew. And I said, I've been drinking too much, Brian.
Oh, wow.
And I think I might have done something else. mushrooms or something I shouldn't be doing. And old Bob was over there. Bob goes, I'll show you guys how to do it. Bob Burns got there on that stage after Artie played a song and a half, finished it out with him so nobody could take it anymore because the doggone heat and humidity in that building. It's a fire hazard, it really was.
Well, before we wrap this up, let me just ask you this. What is your last memory of Larry Junstrom, and maybe the last time you talked to him, or give us a little idea of something about that? That one kind of hurts in more ways. I almost have to tell you about that off camera because it's got something to do with it, too. But that one is to know it's your friend, somebody you hung around with. I worked with him at Obie's Auto Parts, talked to him on the ham radio. We played in so many bands around him, opened with him, and he was so kind to me. He didn't have to do none of that. I'm nobody. I'm a nobody, all right? I'm just a long-haired kid that hung around, played in garage bands with him. I'm a nobody, and for him to take me under the wings. But the last time I saw him was at a barbecue place on the west side of Jacksonville, and everybody knows what I'm talking about. On San Juan Avenue. And, my ex-wife worked there, and my current wife also worked there. That's not always a good combination. Well, it gets a little bit more tricky than that. But I fell in love with it, madly in love. That chokes me up with that little girl that was working at that barbecue place. I got down on my hands and knees and I proposed to her at that barbecue place. Oh, okay. Turns out that's who has been living with LJ for 7, 8, 9 years. Oh, really? So in my house, it was just countless stickers and stuff she got. I was going to take a picture of all that stuff. I thought, nah, I don't want to do that. What year was that, Kenny? Oh, God, back in the 2000s. Okay. 2000. She was on tour with him. She was on tour. She hung out with Johnny Van Zant's wife and everybody over in Hawaii when she was LJ's girlfriend and stuff. And I ended up marrying her, and that was my buddy. And I'm like, boy, this is that sorry intervention thing again. But for whatever reason, it's hard to have relationships when you're on the road and have. And you guys are still together? We're still together. Very cool. Very cool. She's at home right now. I would say she's down to see them. I would say podcast. Maybe Larry probably likes that. Wherever God bless his soul, wherever he is. I hope so. He married a little girl later on. Of course, my wife also been out there too. So he had a lake house out there in Keystone Heights, Lake Geneva area. He also had a place over on the coast, like a lot of the guys did. I mean, I've been to Artie's old place out there in Orange Park. So many of their houses and stuff and the memories. I'm like, well, good for them. I'm just an old struggling guy, made a family, but I'm proud of my son. That's my accomplishments. Never intended to be a rock star. I love music to death, and I'm glad to be back involved now. And still in touch with my friends in Nashville and places like that. And I'm hoping that I can find me a couple of musicians to get it going again myself. Yeah. You play guitar. Yeah, I mean, I don't go around acting like I do because compared to people that really know how to play a guitar, I'm just a shade tree man. I don't know how to play. My son was like I said, Mike Portney told me my son had lightning feet when my son toured with opened up the Dream Theater, and that was my star in heaven. Growing up with all those other guys, that was just a privilege of being around them at the right place at the right time. And then years later, my drum teacher's involved in all of this, and my work later on as a repo guy, and I felt like I was helping him in some way. Let me say this much: even I was a different kind of guy. I wasn't the old bad guy going out throwing people in the street without cars. I had a big heart, and I would give people rides, give them rides to their houses instead of just leaving them somewhere stranded. But I had a job to do, and it was embarrassing as hell to go see Leon, much less Artie about it. But they were so kind, so honest, so welcoming. So by all means, I don't get along with them. Do what you got to do. Yeah.
Any way I can.
Well, speaking of divine intervention, you know, it has a lot to do with us sitting down right now and you carrying on these good stories, you know, and us looking back and seeing how all these puzzle pieces go together. People like to see it. Your donation of your 2 items, and then later on, I think you have some more stuff.
Yeah.
We can't say how much we appreciate it. It's just the survivors, you know, they were forgotten, and I'm not saying that it was intentionally done. I think it was such a horrible accident that nobody wanted to talk about it. That people were afraid to bring it up, you know. But it's time to now, and those people are struggling, and so
They still need to be recognized by Jacksonville.
Yes, sir.
I think before I die, I would like to see that city recognize them and their survivors.
And what's really crazy, you talk about divine intervention. I was at the graveyard with Gene and did a video, and my uncle, who lives in Keystone Heights, said, "Were you over there seeing your grandfather?" And I said, "My grandfather?" He goes, "You don't know your grandfather's buried the same place with you know, the guys from Lynyrd Skynyrd?" And I said, "No." And the whole time I was over there, I had no idea that my grandfather's buried, you know, in the same graveyard as Alan and Leon and Ronnie, you know, and it's just
strange.
Unbelievable.
The lady that I meet, Bill Days, and I end up living at her house, which was just 2 blocks from that cemetery over Old Middleburg Road, and I had to go by them every day. And Alan's on the other side. You know, he's not on the same side everybody else is on. I know.
And then we walk in here, and it's not, you know, Sweet Home Alabama or anything. It's Freebird.
Freebird playing on the. I think I'll never get over that. I'm like,
unbelievable.
How did that? If somebody's going to have to, somebody's got to believe, and I know I watched.
It's not a coincidence.
I know Johnny's gotten real religious, and Donnie gotten, you know, so because I think the world of both of them. But when Johnny's always saying, "Look up,"
right?
You need to be looking up, thinking about that right now. You need to be thinking about that. Because how could that have happened when you and I were meeting as total strangers, come walking in this bar and for the first time, and that's on the jukebox.
Happens to me all the time. Okay, Kenny, my memory card ran out, and I just wanted to do a wrap up. But Kenny, thank you so much for coming down and sharing all these great stories, and you know, a lot of information that we got that a lot of people are going to really take a look at and go, "Wow, this is unreal." And meeting you back here in my old kicking, stomping grounds of Melbourne, and the donations that you gave us, and all the cool things that we talked about. Thank you so much, Kenny. Appreciate it. And hopefully we can get you back on and talk some more.
All right.
All righty.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you, Kenny.
All right.